Hi everyone. I wanted to talk to you just briefly about the annotated bibliography assignment that you're going to be working on in Module 3. And so we'll start off on the page where you'll submit your assignments. And when you open that, as you know, you'll be able to find your annotated bibliography description and as well as the rubric. So let's try opening this. My computer has been very slow lately, so hopefully it doesn't take too long. So this assignment is really one that's meant to help you set up a kind of routine for putting together the readings and the information that you might need as you move forward into your research project. So as I wait for this to open, I'll talk about that a little bit. Over a period of time, you're going to be gathering a lot of different readings. And it's really helpful to have some kind of a system for keeping track of them as you come across them in the work that you do. I'm just going to increase the size here a little bit. So when your assignment comes up, it's going to look like this, and I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Okay. And so the purpose of this assignment is to provide you with an opportunity to kind of start putting that, or not kind of, but just put that together so that as you move into doing your research project, you're going to have already started this process. And you can keep track of it on your computer. So for example, one of the things I used to do was I just had a list of the alphabetical letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, etc., etc. And then when I found a reading, I would just list them alphabetically inside of that letter, so that I kind of everything was alphabetical and I could find things quickly over time. And I would just put my reference in there, a few ideas that I needed about that reading and how I thought it might relate to the research that I was doing. And so that little kind of blurb then became really important, because then I could go back to that and say, oh yes, for this section of my paper or this section of my literature review, for example, or this section when I'm talking about my methodology, this would be a handy resource to have in place. So that's what we're doing here. So there are all kinds of different sorts of annotations. I guess you don't really need to see this side part here, but anyway, let's move that over. So there are many different kinds of annotations. Some of them are very, very long. They're meant to be to introduce a reading to a wider variety, a wider range of readers, for example, and you can sometimes find them in research journals, etc. But here, what we're doing is we're providing a resource for ourselves. So the general assignment description goes over some of that, and one of the things that it talks about is that you'll be doing 5 annotations in this part of the assignment. So in part 1, you will do 5, you do more in part 2. But this will get you going with this particular format. And this will be curated information. That means that you choose carefully and in a very logical and directive kind of way the kind of information that you keep and that you record about each of these readings. That you'll draw it from the scholarly literature, that means peer-reviewed literature, and on the library website, and oftentimes the website will actually give you information about whether it's peer-reviewed or not. Sometimes it doesn't, but it often is there, and that will tell you that this is a scholarly journal that you can trust and you can use. And it's related to your research problem. So you're going to develop discerning skills about the literature that you actually read and use, because there's this vast world of literature out there, and this will help you be much more discerning in the kind of choices that you make. Okay, so your annotation should be brief. So what does that mean? So let's have a look at what it should include. So first of all, it should include the reference using APA 7th edition. That will be at the top of each of the annotations. And the reasons are at least two. One of them is to just continue having practice using APA 7th edition so that when you get into doing the research project, you're not being overly delayed or having to go to a source all the time in order to be able to do your references and citations correctly using APA. It will be kind of second nature at that point. Because you kind of use the same sorts of resources over and over again. Every once in a while you use something a little more exotic, but oftentimes you use the same kinds of things over and over again. So the more you actually record those in APA style in your papers that you're writing, in the citations that you're using throughout the paper, and your references at the end, the faster it's going to get for you and the more intuitive it will become. You'll then, underneath that reference, you will put a summary of the article in 3 to 5 sentences for A to D and 1 to 2 sentences for E. Now, these are suggestions. If you need to organize that differently, of course, that's fine. You have a whole page on this, in this case, to explore the article, but try to, even though you have that page double-spaced, mind you, and with the reference at the top, so that does cut down on the space, but still, try to really practice being succinct. So you're going to, first of all, identify the significant issue that the researchers explore. What's the main issue that they're exploring in this article? What's the type of research that they conducted? What kind of methodology did they use for collecting and analyzing their data? So you're going to want to briefly talk about that. What kind of conclusions did they come to? So that's the content of the actual article itself that you're concerning yourself with. So in 3 to 5 sentences, or a half a page or whatever it happens to be, you're going to talk about all of that. That means that you're going to have to be really concise. Now, one of the things that you can use to help you in that process is the abstract of the article, because what the author has done in doing the abstract is to do exactly that, provide a brief synopsis of the entire article. So you can draw from that and kind of synopsize the synopsis in the abstract, so if you will. So that's going to provide you with the initial information and very important information. And then the last part of your work here is going to be a reflection on the potential efficacy of the article to your own research. So what meaning is this going to have to your research? So it might be an example of using a particular methodology that you're interested in, and you may not be as concerned about that now as you might be by the time you get to the second part of this assignment, because you'll have talked a lot more about methodology and so on. Or it could be the key idea that the author is exploring, and how they approach that, or some aspect of what it is that you're interested in, and how they look at that particular part of the question. So that's the kind of specific assignment information that you'll include, but you will not include, and you do not need to include, biographical information about the authors of the article that's being annotated. First of all, you've got the names in the reference at the top. Secondly, their affiliations, the things that they've done in the past, all that sort of thing, doesn't mean anything at this point to your work. So it's just fill, basically, when you put it in this kind of annotation. Now, another kind of annotation, it might be more important, but in this annotation, it's simply not important. It doesn't matter. And in fact, you don't even need to use the full name of the author if you reference them throughout the article. You might say, Wallace suggests that, blah, 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 that sort of thing. You don't need to use the whole name or their designation. You don't have to say Dr. Janice Wallace, you just say Wallace. And of course the year and that sort of thing. Okay, of the 5 articles you choose, no more than 1 article should be from a professional journal or another kind of professional source like a ministry document. So that 1 article or 1 source is okay. but it's not going to be the kind of thing that you're going to be able to use to support your whole, to support your work successfully, or with the kind of validity that you need. So you're going to need the other articles to be chosen from reputable journals that are peer-reviewed, and you might want to even represent different kinds of methodologies in approaching the particular issue. You don't have to. There's no stipulation on how many of each. So if you know that you're going to be doing qualitative work, you might want to look at maybe one quantitative approach. Sometimes there are none. The kind of issue just doesn't lend itself to, a quantitative approach or a qualitative approach. So, you can have a variety, or you don't have to have a variety. That's up to you, but it's just something to kind of think about. Your formatting then is going to be a title page. This is for the entire assignment. You're going to have a title page that will include a title that signals the topic. So it could be, after your information, it could be Annotated Bibliography, ... Resistance to Gender Equity. That would have been mine, for example. Each annotation must not exceed 1 page, and it probably doesn't even have to be that long. It should be double-spaced, 12-point font, in a legible font format such as Times New Roman or Calibri. And if you're not going to use a Word document, I will not be providing the same kind of response as I do to others. So, so please, if it's at all possible, use a Word document so that I can give you a fulsome kind of response. Because I can't use the same kind of editing and commenting technology as I can on Word, and that's the reason for that. You'll get comments and that sort of thing, of course. Okay, so the rubric is the reference for each annotation is complete and uses correct formatting, and I'm talking correct formatting as in commas where the commas belong, periods where the periods belong, capital letters where they belong, and that's one thing that people still trip up on. So watch where you use capital letters and use the examples from our own list of resources for the course to give you a model of what that looks like for a journal article, for example, or what that looks like for a book or a chapter of a book, that sort of thing. So you're going to have your reference, you're going to have the format of each, you're going to have the annotation, and I'm going to be watching that each annotation provides the information that we've suggested, and that it's complete, and that it's that you've included information that's thoughtfully chosen rather than just kind of fill, and that it's useful for future research activities. The annotation is written succinctly using excellent grammar and spelling. So each one, you need to be paying attention to that, and you do anyway. So that's nothing new, but it needs to be in a, written in a way that is where information is easy to access. The reflection sentence or a couple of sentences at the end is a thoughtful consideration of how this article is going to be helpful to you as you conduct and report on your research. So, and this is how I allocate the remarks. The marks 0 to 0.5 times 5 references, 0 to 2 times 5 for the annotations, up to 10, and 0 to 0.25. Sorry, this isn't complete here. Oh yes, it is. So it's 0 up to 2.5 for the reflection, and the total is 15. And then you'll get your comments. So that's basically how it's organized. If you have any questions about any of the resources, so for example, if you're looking at a book and you're not sure whether it would be considered a professional book or it would be considered a academic book, shoot it by me, and I'll have a look and provide a response. After a while, you get so that it's becomes pretty easy to respond. You know that this is an academic work, or this is a more general or kind of professionally focused piece of work. So I'll be happy to look at that and give you my response. Anyway, I hope that this is helpful. If you have any questions along the way, please let me know. And I look forward to what you find. It's always interesting to see what people dig up around all kinds of different issues. And don't be afraid to use the librarian to help you with some of this as well. If you're digging around or you can't find the keywords that are helping you in locating the literature, then don't be afraid to talk to the librarian, either electronically or in person, and they're wonderful at finding all kinds of things. So do take advantage of that resource. Thanks for listening, and thanks for your patience with all of this. Take care.